October 22nd, 2017 to order. We have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted?
Yes.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item 4 is public appearances. This is public's opportunity to speak about any subject that's not a specific agenda item. Anybody? Okay, and she wishes to speak? Okay. And the Horizon's not on the development? Or on
Well, they're under unfinished business, so I don't know if you want to.
Well, we'll do it for that, and so it's on
Okay.
the same subject. Okay. All right. Item 5, discuss and consider the minutes of the regular village board meeting from September 18th. Any corrections, comments, additions?
Motion approved.
Okay, motion and a second to approve as presented. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Item 6, presentations to the board. Our first item is presentation by MAD Rep. Paul Jaden is here, and you want the screen down? And okay.
Just have to maximize this. Good evening, everyone. I'm Paul Jaden. I'm president of the Madison Region Economic Partnership. And I'll just give you a little bit of an introduction while Aaron's finishing up the technology here. We are the economic development organization for the 8 counties in the region, basically Dane County and everything that touches it. About 1 million people and about a $49 billion gross regional product. So just to put that in perspective, the state's gross state product is approaching $300 billion now. So we represent about 1/6 of the state for our 8 counties. And I have a staff of about 7 people now, budget of about $1 million, and we raise about 80% of our budget from the private sector. I'm going to just very briefly tell you what else we do. Aaron asked me to be here primarily, I think, because you were struggling with the issue of our journal, and he's got a stack of our annual journals that he'll make available to you as well. And I've got a card here that I'll leave with everyone that just gives you a little bit of a background if you're ever wondering as you're pondering weak and weary during the day what MADREP is all about. You can refer to this card. Why is that not moving? There we go. We operate under what's known as the Advanced Now Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. We do 5 things: economic competitiveness, entrepreneurship and innovation, human capital, which of course is all things related to workforce development, leadership and diversity, and marketing. And the marketing, of course, relates to telling the Madison region story as much as we can. And that's part of what we're talking about with the journal. We direct that to a very specific audience. And I'll tell you a little more about that audience in a little while. We work with an extended enterprise in economic development. Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation represents all of the 72 counties. We work with them, although not reporting to them. And likewise, we have individual organizations that work with us, about 90 to 100 different economic development professionals, including Aaron, but also including chambers of commerce, county economic development corporations, utilities, private sector entities, education. We'll talk a little bit about education as well. But that's basically our extended enterprise. One of the things we do with human capital is something we call Inspire Madison Region. And today, in all of your schools, you'll find that the state has required a platform called Career Cruising, wherein a young person can go online and figure out what a welder does, or a nurse, or an accountant. Basically, they're given job descriptions, they're given places where these people work, and so forth. We have this Inspire platform that layers on top of Career Cruising, and it's provided by the same company that does Career Cruising. But that allows that same young person to not just see what a welder does, but actually communicate with a welder, and maybe do job shadowing, or an internship, or an apprenticeship. The company may commit to doing presentations in the classrooms, and likewise have the classes come and tour the plants or the offices. So we were the first in the state to do this, and now we're trying to get our colleagues from around the state to do likewise. There are 63 school districts in our 8 counties. We have 55 of them already signed up, and 542 coaches. In other words, those are the people that the young person would actually communicate with. And we're approaching 500 companies that are onboarded already. If you look at the Rock County, those white points, they are managed separately from us, but they're now integrated. As of 2 weeks ago, they're now integrated with us. So we have all 63 districts covered. And we're trying to do the same, so that a young person in Cottage Grove, for instance, who would like to be a shipbuilder, is not going to find too many people who make ships in this region. So they're going to be able to communicate with Marinette, Sturgeon Bay, Green Bay, where there are shipbuilding opportunities. Likewise, people in Green Bay might want to communicate with someone down here about IT jobs, like game development, or software publishing like Epic does. We also have a very strong leadership and diversity component, and annually we do a summit with the Urban League of Greater Madison that basically I call an economic development summit with a diversity feature, whereas the Urban League calls it a diversity summit with an economic development feature. And then along with that, every year we do a diversity and inclusion survey. We survey several thousand companies. Last year we got 468 responses, which I believe was about a 15% response rate. And that basically tells us essentially what is going on in our region with respect to diversity and inclusion practices, how many people of color are on boards or in the workforce, what sort of practices you have in terms of recruitment, and what do you do with respect to retaining minorities and females and so forth. We also pride ourselves in the data that we have. Everything that site selectors or people looking for retaining a business or relocating a business to your area are going to be dependent on data. They want to know exactly how many software publishers you have, exactly how many people are getting degrees in that field. They want to know how far you are from rail or from an airport, things like that. We have data on our dashboard that you can refer to that might allow you to put a report together with respect to what's going on specifically for Cottage Grove, because you're able to drill down with some of the geographic information system there to find out how many establishments in a certain area, let's say how many banks, how many accountants, that sort of thing, are in a specific area. But if you go to our website, you'll find 32 data points that we track, and we do that for our region plus Raleigh-Durham, Portland, Ann Arbor, and Austin, Texas. Those are the 4 regions we try to compare ourselves to on a regular basis. And then if you go beyond that regional review, you'll be able to drill down and find out exactly what's going on in each of our 8 counties and compare each of those counties to the region and to the state and to those other regions, as well as to the United States. On that website, you'll also find that we have a significant searchable database of buildings and sites. And this is one of the things that I would commend to you most specifically that you try to address. I think you're all aware that we are in the process of responding to Amazon's HQ2 request. And as you look at your prospects for responding to those things, having sites that are either on our website or on the state's website as certified or verified enhances your prospects significantly, because a certified site tells a developer or a site selector that, one, the village or city controls the property. You don't have to worry about buying it or assembling the site. Two, you have all of the zoning in place, you have all the permitting done, you don't have to worry about any kind of archaeological problems, you don't have to worry about wetlands. It's basically a site that is ready to go, shovel ready, and the 17 sites that the state of Wisconsin has already certified are those that are being most sought after by developers and site selectors. We have 8 of them. Of all the 17 sites in the state, we have 8 of them in our region, and they are the most popular sites by far. Problem that we have with certified sites is that it's expensive to get them certified. Probably takes about $13,000 to $15,000 just to get the process going, and if there are additional archaeological or engineering or structural problems, it could increase the price significantly. So we've offered a second-tier program, which we call Gold Shovel, and we do that for $3,000. We basically come in and verify the site. In other words, we take everything you've got on file in the city, show all of the permits, the zoning, the location, the topographical maps, and so on, and then put a binder together so that we can sell or promote that property to any of the site selectors that are coming to us with a specific project. On our website, we also include our top employers, and there too, it's probably the most visited page of our website. So to have your top employers featured makes an awful lot of sense. We get, on a regular basis, hits from around the world. In fact, probably a third of the visits to our webpage, and we were able to track this, by the way, through a program that we purchased. But a third of our hits are from outside of the United States. And so as they come to our website, they're looking for our top employers. I can't tell you why, because we don't talk directly to them, but it's an area that is something worth your consideration. I mentioned the Gold Shovel. This is, if you go to our site, this is what you'll see in terms of the 8 counties. There are, it only shows 7 certified sites. There's one that goes to a second page here. So there's 8 certified sites. In addition, we started the program for Gold Shovel just this year. We have 1 Gold Shovel site verified right now in Baraboo, and we're in the process of verifying probably 3 or 4 more right now. These icons are on the state's website as well, so if you go to the In Wisconsin website, you'll find all of those are marketed the same way, and our Gold Shovel site is also on the state's website. Again, getting back to data, it is absolutely critical that we know ourselves. You can't develop your economy if you don't know where your economy is today. And again, another thing that I would recommend highly that you do, get a thorough understanding of what exactly is in your economy today. What are the key sectors? What drives your community? Where are the gaps? What kind of supply chain do your key employers have? And a lot of that comes from the work that we do with respect to sector reports. We have 5 key sectors in the Madison region. They're agriculture, food and beverage, information technology, life sciences, healthcare, and what did I miss? Advanced manufacturing. And I've already profiled ag, food, and beverage on our website. If you go to that site, you'll find, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's about 130 pages of explaining exactly how many establishments we have in agriculture, food, and beverage, how many employees we have, how many degrees are conferred, It's a very comprehensive approach to explaining the regional economy. And we are now in the process of completing the 4 other sectors, and they'll be done by the second quarter of next year. We also market the region through a little bit of outreach. We don't do a lot of commercials or billboards or anything like that. Our marketing effort is geared directly to site selectors. So it's not the average Joe sitting at home on a couch. This is something we did with American Family Insurance, where we did a 5-minute piece that aired in, I believe it was 18 different regions in the country, primarily Fox Business News, and American Family gave us about $20,000 to do this. Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank was the narrator. The other thing we do annually is a familiarization tour with site selectors. And again, I keep using that term. Site selectors are basically glorified brokers, real estate brokers. And there's only a couple hundred of them in the country. They are courted heavily by people like myself everywhere in the 50 states and even beyond. And so we invite 4 or 5 or 6 of them every year to come and tour the Madison region. We show off our key assets, things like the University of Wisconsin, our key transportation areas, obviously the quality of life that we enjoy here. And so this is an example. We took them to Electronic Theater Controls in Middleton. We finished at Epic to kind of give them an idea that this is an area that boasts a campus that is every bit as good as Google or Apple or Facebook or any of the others. And I've had site selectors tell me that. They've been to all of those campuses, and none of them hold a candle to Epic. And it was in one of those site selector familiarization tours where we asked what we could do better. And they looked at our website and said, you compare yourself today to Austin, Des Moines, and Lincoln. I told you that the communities we compare ourselves to today. They basically said Des Moines and Lincoln, in their wildest dreams, would love to be the Madison region. So why are you comparing yourselves to people who are aspiring to be you? And so we changed. We went out and added Portland, Ann Arbor, and the Raleigh-Durham area, which are a little more aspirational, a lot more related to what to our strengths. Our site selection outreach includes last year when we had the U.S. Open at Erin Hills, we had about a dozen site selectors in, along with the state and the Milwaukee 7 region and New North. The 3 of us combined to host that. We've had site selectors at Kohler for a familiarization tour, selling the entire state. We have been to Site Selectors Guild, which is basically a group of 40 site selectors who almost literally expect you to kiss their ring when you go and see them at these events. We've also, this past year I was at the Live Exchange event in Utah, and the main reason I was there is because next year we're hosting it. We had to compete with probably a dozen or so other communities around the country. And so in May of 18, we will be hosting 30 site selectors along with 30 economic developers and 30 businesses who have projects. In other words, they're coming here and saying, we want to talk to you and these other site selectors from around the country about whether we'll consider bringing our business to your community or to the communities that these selectors represent. So Live Exchange will be here May 6th through the 8th, and it's something I'll be talking to Aaron and our other colleagues about as we go forward. And the reason that this is all important is because back in 2012, which is pre-MADREP, we were called Thrive at the time, we changed our name to Madison Region Economic Partnership and really started from scratch. I don't have a single employee left from 2012. And I started in November of 2012. We had about 5 to 10 opportunities per year, site selectors bringing us a project that they said, we want X acres or Y square feet in an existing building and that sort of thing. And we didn't win any of those in 2012. This year, through September, we've had 34 of those. We probably had 5 wins already. If you can get 10%, you're doing very well. The key is you simply want to get on those people's list. They need to know more about the Madison region if they're ever going to consider putting us on the short list. And obviously Amazon is an example of a major one where we're a very significant long shot, but one where we feel if we can get into the top 20, it's sending a significant message to the rest of the world and specifically to site selectors. But we also had recently a project called Project Varsity, which by now everyone knows is Foxconn. So as you look at what's going on in southeast Wisconsin with the development there, the $3 billion state incentives went to this, or are going to this project in southeast Wisconsin. There's a second project that isn't requiring that kind of incentive. In fact, it's not going to require legislation at all, and it's a project that will go in the Madison region. If it happens at all, it will be in the Madison region. And we're expecting to hear from them within the next 3 or 4 weeks as to exactly where it would go. And the only reason they were holding off is because they wanted to see the state legislation pass on the other project, because I think it's safe to assume if the state told them no in Milwaukee, they probably would take a hike in Madison as well. But that's a very exciting project, and one that we expect to win. We've also recently just had a variety of agricultural projects that we were successful in luring. Tribe 9 Foods, for example, was a project where they had a cookie or treat manufacturer in Colorado that was either going to come here or they were going to lure 2 businesses from Madison and combine the 3 of them in Colorado. We ended up combining the 3 of them here in the Madison region, and so we have a significantly larger employee base there with 70,000 square feet of manufacturing. Project Drexel, in case you're worried about are we doing everything just in Madison, we had a very significant project just developed in Columbus, and that's about a $3 million capital expenditure, 8 to 10 acres with, I think they're starting with somewhere around 70 employees. Green Ag Technologies is a project that is going to locate in at least 2 different areas, both rural areas in Madison region, about 100 to 200 employees, where they're going to have 15 to 18 acres of tomatoes and other vegetables growing under greenhouse. So it's going to be one of the largest greenhouses you're going to see anywhere. I'll just go through these very quickly. We're a part of America's Competitiveness Exchange. I say this because it links us very significantly with the Economic Development Administration in Washington. This allows us, or we hosted it 3 years ago with probably 45 South American countries. We have ministers of economic development, commerce secretaries, and so forth from all of the Central and South American countries come here. Then we went to Argentina. Last year we went to Toronto, and this coming year it's being hosted in Florida. But in the process, we've developed relationships with all these countries. And therefore, after we were in Argentina, we were able to send three companies from the Madison region to Mexico, 2 of which developed contracts with Mexican companies. We also were a part of Investing in Manufacturing Communities Partnership, which allowed us to develop a relationship with the Economic Development Administration wherein we would get preference points every time we applied for a grant. So when someone at the university, for instance, was looking at research dollars, we would attach our name to that, and they would automatically get preference points as they were looking at awarding a grant to that agency. The 2 of those things together allowed us to develop that relationship with the EDA that I spoke of. And therefore, we had funding opportunities with Tyson Foods, for instance, in Jefferson, where because of our involvement, they received a $100,000 planning grant. We're looking at doing the same thing with Oscar Mayer, which of course completely closed now just 4 months ago. We're also looking at money for the Madison Public Market. We received a $500,000 grant for Starting Block Madison. REAP Foods and Food Finance Institute have received money from the federal government through that program as well. And then we're also trying to develop centers of excellence that allow for more dollars to flow from the federal government and from the state government to guarantee that what we're doing best, we continue to do well and even improve on. And those areas that we're doing well include things like Wisconsin Games Alliance. A lot of people in the world don't understand that Madison is a hotbed for game development. We created the #1 game in the world right outside of Madison called Call of Duty. That was done through Raven. And they now are a part of Activision Blizzard. We have 4 AAA studios in the Madison region, along with about 30 to 40 independent game developers. And so what we're trying to do is build on that by bringing more game businesses here, and more importantly, bringing more game developers here to build that network. Likewise, we're doing the same with the Center for Dairy Research. Already one of the top 5 centers for dairy research in the world, but we want to make sure that they're funded adequately so they can do more incubation, more acceleration, and move into things like putting milk in Pepsi, or developing different flavors of dairy-related drinks, and of course different flavors of cheese as well. We're hosting the Madison, what's called MDev, October 27th. It's the first game developers conference in the Midwest, and that too will be designed to get more attention to the area. And we have a very significant international focus. I talked about ACE already, but we regularly host delegations from around the world, most recently places like Netherlands, Canada, Germany, Argentina, Mexico. We also participate in Select USA, which is a federal program just started 3 or 4 years ago, which is dedicated to bringing foreign direct investment to the United States. And through the Select USA program, we've already connected with a variety of foreign companies that are examining opportunities here. So, as I said at the outset, we operate under a strategy called Advance Now, and that strategy is now 5 years old, so we're moving into Advance Now 2.0, and we've got a significant track record. The journal talks about that track record a little bit. You'll find an insert in there that has our annual report in it, and I would simply encourage you to consider re-upping your advertising there. I want to make you aware, however, that all of that revenue goes to the company that produces the journal. What we get out of it is simply that document that we're able to use as collateral in marketing our region. We get about 5,000 of them. We use it primarily, again, to send out to site selectors. Those magazines are in most of the hotels in the region. A lot of the companies in the region also have them as coffee table publications. So if you have any questions about that or anything else that I've shared with you tonight, I'll be happy to answer them.
Are you also online? You also have a presence online through your site?
For that publication? Yes. It's called businessclimate.com. Thank you for that question, because businessclimate.com basically has anyone who produces one of these every year, it has a presence on that website. So you'll find, state of Kentucky and Charlotte, North Carolina, and other regions like that. So you have an opportunity to compare, basically. I've been told recently that our livability section is the most visited page of the website for businessclimate.com.
I saw under the Centers for Excellence, Sector 67 was listed. What kind of work do you do with them, or do you plan on doing?
Well, we've worked with Chris Meyer and his team at Sector 67 probably for the last 5 years. I've got 2 people from my staff who sit on their board of directors, and one of the primary things we've done for them recently was get them a $250,000 grant from the state to build their new building. And I'm sure you're aware of what happened to Chris. In case the rest of you aren't, Chris Meyer is a very strong community volunteer, runs Sector 67, which is a worker site. They have 3D printers and engraving equipment and welding and just about anything you can imagine. Every year they do a pour for iron, and Chris was raising the roof of the new building that he's occupying, working at 11 o'clock at night on a forklift. Something hit the propane tank that was right behind him on the forklift and exploded. So he's in the hospital with 30% burns over his body. And so there was a web page, a GoFundMe page that started out trying to raise $50,000. They exceeded that in 2 days, and now the goal was 100, and they've already gotten past 100. So the property is going to be well taken care of in his absence.
It's a good cause. That's a great group. That's why I wanted to.
Thank you for asking.
And just to note that the village's community development authority is looking into the gold shovel program for our land north of the interstate, north of 94. That's the property that was submitted for the Amazon
I
headquarters.
look forward to helping you with that. It's
Yeah.
very wise move for you. The key about economic development is being proactive. There are way too many communities, particularly in this area, who do economic development by waiting for the phone to ring. And that simply means, there may be an opportunity that comes up out of the blue, and they'll say, okay, let me see if we can find a site. Let me see if we can come up with some incentives, and we'll get back to you in 6 months. You guys need to be prepared when that opportunity comes before you. You can say, here it is. We've got everything in place for you. You can break ground tomorrow. Any other questions? I'm going to leave this with you as well. I'll maybe send it with Troy over here, and you can just pass it over. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Next item, 6B, is from Madison Rugby. If it's okay with everybody, we'll take a few-minute recess. They're going to use their own equipment, I guess. Okay.
We're gonna need this one now.
Yep. Oh, that's great.
Here at Madison United Rugby, we run the Wisconsin Rugby Sports Complex, which is north of Backman Park. Is the two fields out there. Josh Hoyt is sitting right here. He's the president of the organization. It's a nonprofit organization. If anyone is not aware of that, and we just wanted to give you guys an update on what's been going on out there, as well as kind of get our faces in front of the new elected trustees that came up for election in June. So first up, like I said, that's what the complex is. We've got a couple sports pictures here, top right there, that's rugby. That's definitely what happens there most of the time right now. That's what I play. I think it's the best sport in the world. Bottom left there, that's hurling. We had too big of a break for my little laptop. Bottom left there, that's hurling. We have the Madison Hurling Club comes out and plays several games in the summer and hosts a big Midwest tournament in September every year. Those are two big users right now. When the bike trail goes through, we're going to look at definitely partnering with organizations like Bike Fed and trying to bring some biking events to maybe like use the field area as a camp out and that sort of thing. We've been talking about putting a building out there as well, which I think a lot of people in this community have heard about. And it would not just be sports related. So we'd be putting out there, it's going to be a community resource when this happens, and it's about helping everybody else move more. So it's not just for us, it's not just for sports. Like we've got a yoga class pictured there. That's one of the things that easily comes to mind about one of the multi-purpose rooms can be used for that. I know a lot of like activities like that happen in the basement of banks and things in Cottage Grove right now because there isn't a dedicated community center here yet, and there's some people who go to Sun Prairie to get that kind of programming. So this is the community's needs. We've mentioned moving more. There's a lot of things we could also do with it. If you've been paying attention to what happens at Breeze Stevens in Madison, that now hosts concerts, it hosts bodegas, and there's no reason we can't do similar things like that with this facility here in Cottage Grove. So it's kind of cool to piggyback on a presentation where someone just talked about economic development, and we're already got one of these things, wheels turning, right here in the community. We'll also have the ability to host corporate events, so that we'll have meeting rooms where we can have retreats, or like Hydrite or somebody or Johnson could come out and have one of their little meetings off-site if you need to do something like that for a day, do some team building, stuff like that. I'm just going to, and then this is the last slide, and kind of was a bigger thing we wanted to communicate today because most of the rest of that is old news. So fundraising-wise, we kicked off a capital campaign that was only in the rugby community last October. So it's been going for about exactly 1 year right now. We've got almost $800,000. We've got a goal of $2 million for what we want out of the rugby community. The way that $800,000 breaks down is there's $750,000 that we got from a property donation from one of our alumni donors. We have another $500,000 that's pledged in matching from another donor. So if we can raise $500 from the grassroots level, we get another $500. So there's a lot of money kind of sitting here waiting to move. And just what we've got from the grassroots level so far is that's $40,000 actually brought in that we have cash in hand in the bank. We have another $200,000+ in pledges over 4 years. So our goal here is to spread this. We've got this out over 4 years going to 2020. And we've been asking our own community to give us pledges and have that broken down over 4 years to help them spread it out. And so we're not just asking for one thing, one at a time, and give them something where they can schedule it. So we've got that all in a piece of software that manages it and tracks it. So that's why we think that's going to be successful. Our goal there, like I said, is to get to 2K or $2 million. And we have a build decision at the end of 2018. So we're going to look at what do we have financially in a little over a year and say what kind of building can we build with this. And depending on how much money we've got, how much buy-in we've got, that'll determine the size of it, the features, that sort of thing. Other sources, we're looking at foundations, grants, corporate sponsors, and local community businesses, that sort of thing. So kind of everything's on the table. And yeah, that's pretty much all I say about that. And like I said, the total goal is $6 million, so that's $4 million for the building, $2 million for furnishings, and budget support, so that's paying some salary and making sure we fill in the gaps until we can make the whole thing operate in the black once the news is out about where it is and people have become on board with what the programming looks like. So we're looking for $4 of that million to come from non-rugby sources. This is why the other sources are listed there. The features the building will have is going to serve the local sports community definitely, so it's going to have showers and locker rooms for that. It's going to have a lounge area, and it will have these multi-purpose rooms that I mentioned before, full-service kitchen. in previous plans, we had said we were committed to putting a museum in this. That is now one of the things that if we have enough money to do it, we'll do it. So I know that plan has changed, and that's been a lot of, like, we've come before the village board, and it's looked a little different, so I wanted to come here, say it is a little bit different once again, and field any questions you guys had about what this is going to look like or what the plan looks like. So if you have any questions, we're ready to take those.
Question? So you had mentioned changes over time. Is the current fundraising goal more towards the most current building plan that was in your guys' business plan?
The business plan, building plan is the one where, that's the 4 million. The reason that one is, like, we're talking about it being 4 million is because that one will, like, actually cost 4 million. There's another more extravagant plan. Once we got an estimate back, that was going to be 8. And we said, that's a little bit more than we're willing to raise just to put into a building, and it's got some features that we can reduce the cost of that through efficiency. So yes, it's the one in the building plan.
The $750,000 for property donation, what are you talking about when you say property? Is that stuff that's going to go into the museum? Or
No.
is that something else?
The museum is all its own entity, and the person who's in charge of that he's keeping that close to his vest until it either comes to this museum or goes somewhere else. The property came from, during the recession, we had one of our wealthy alumni was able to purchase a couple rental properties around the Madison area and just hung on to them until they matured, and then was able to put them back on the market, and that's looking at the profit from those.
Let me just add to that, you know, I think what's really important is that, you know, when it comes to final design of a building like this, obviously there's going to have to be, you know, flexibility. We want to get feedback and input when we get to that decision point.
Including from the community.
Right, exactly. From the community, so this is what we want to do, this is where we want to go with it, what do you guys want to see there? The $4 million building, that number was based on what we thought we could reasonably raise, basically, you know, in terms of going out to our own community, to, you know, surrounding community, to corporations and foundations. We thought that the 4 plus 2 was a reasonable goal. That was something we could probably do. And we've already shown, I think, within our own rugby community, by kicking off our capital campaign last October, we're well on track to meet, you know, what we thought our goal was going to be just from our own rugby players and rugby community. By the end of this year, I think we should be pushing $1 million in cash in the bank, and that's exciting because that's going to help move us forward with the project. And as Jake mentioned, when we get to the end of next year, we're going to be able to sit down and say, okay, this is what we have pledged. What is this building going to look like? And we'll have some decisions to make. But we're committed to getting it done, and that's the important part.
Are you anticipating needing any more land, or what's the parking situation?
Right, I mean, the parking situation has to be dealt with at some point, right? So,
It's probably important to get that figured out before doing too much.
I mean, the building itself isn't going to change, like, a single event load, really, because, like, that's still limited by how many fields are built. So it's only if, like, if the building would somehow create an event that would be bigger and different than the existing rugby and curling events that happen there now.
I think too, you have to look at, you know, what's happening out in that whole area, including Boston Park and Fireman's Park and all that. I think all you have to do is look at we host the state high school boys rugby championship. There was a lot of people there. We had almost
2,000.
It was over 2,000 people there for that event alone. But when Fireman's Festival happens, you have the same problem. So really, I think it's a joint effort that's going to need to be taken to solve that particular problem. Is that there's a parking need that general whole facility really has to offer, and that probably be part of the parks discussion ultimately. But we're open to it.
Because I know, like, there's other plans for that whole back and park area where it's like the splash pad goes and all the other things. I've seen the grand scheme for that, so it's like that's what we're gonna have to work. It's like depending on what timeline that's on and what timeline we're on, and sort out like when does parking need to go and how much do we need in the first phase.
We met back in, I think it was January or February, but at that time we had exchanged some correspondence, and you guys were talking about needing to go to your board to get approval to do an agreement for reimbursement. Did anything ever happen with that, or sitting out there?
Right. I remember what you're talking about. I don't remember where it ended up.
It got discussed. We can-
That's good.
I know that. I'll have to look in to see if we actually did a formal vote on it, but.
Okay.
I can pull it up before I leave, and I'll see where we were last at.
Okay. Thanks.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
I think you know who you are. Man.
You get the whole thing yourself.
I mean, I'm fine with
You're good.
I just didn't want to move.
No, I'm too lazy. As soon as you move this.
Okay, that brings us down to item 7A. Discuss and consider advertisement for MadRep's annual Madison Area Economic Development Guide. This is the one that was tabled last month, and we saw the presentation. Any comments, questions?
Do we have to motion to untable it and then
I
discuss?
believe from a procedural standpoint, we have to take it off the table. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I motion to untable.
I'll second it. Okay. Motion to take off the table from last month, the MadRep's Annual Economic Development Guide.
What was the amount again?
Is there a second?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You had the second.
I did, yeah. So, any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, back on the table.
Now my question,
Okay.
sorry. Sorry, Jack.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear.
I said, what was the cost of the attic? It was-
Yeah, in your staff report, it's listed as $5,380. Since the last meeting, they sent a draft contract over, and they're actually offering last year's price, which was $4,940, so a little bit less than we had thought last year.
Is that the one where you were looking at the way Cottage Grove was spelled in the magazine and just a little bit of tweaking with the font or the word art or whatever you want to?
It looked a little dated.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Any other comments?
We can ask them to propose some
Yeah,
different fonts for
Sure.
that too.
I'm generally supportive of it. I just, when I took a look at it compared to the other towns and villages in there, it stood out in a bad way. So.
Make it pop more.
Yeah.
In a good way.
I think it makes sense to continue it. I don't know. John?
I'll make a motion that the board approves expenditures of $4,940, I think, correct? For the ad, with suggested updates from them to modernize it.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the advertisement in MadRep's annual Madison Area Economic Development Guide. Any other discussion?
Just to add that the funds for that would come from the cable fund, so just so
Right.
we're keeping track that,
From what fund?
The cable TV fund, it's a public relations
Yes.
related issue.
Did we not vote to roll that into capital fund, or, I'm trying to recall, so is that
we
going to
did.
be an issue?
It'll essentially, it'll start for next year's budget essentially, so, yeah.
So I want to make sure there's no roadblock. using
No,
that money.
there isn't.
Okay. All right, motion and a second, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next is 7B, discuss Horizon Development Outlook Crossing TIF incentive proposal.
So there's some additional information from Verizon in the packet.
Sure. And I have to apologize, I think you left a message on my home phone, which I'm never home. Sorry about that, I've been going through these messages, but I just wanted to let you know I did finally get it.
Quite okay.
I'll give you my cell phone.
Very good. Did everyone get a chance to
Introductions again, my name is Dan Fitzgerald, I'm the President and CEO of Horizon Development Group. With me is our CFO, Kurt Pierenboom, who's our CFO of the company here. So in our letter, I was attempting to address the questions and concerns and comments from the last meeting that we gave that informational presentation. And two of the big points that we came away from that meeting that additional information was needed was the cost of improving this site and how it compares to a typical multifamily site that we have. So if you look on page 3 or the first attachment, that was that breakout exercise that I did working with my staff and my civil engineer to try to go through some of the standard customary cost of a multifamily site that we've been developing in different locations and what the costs are for those cost divisions, and then compared to the overlook sites. This is in an effort to kind of describe to you where we're seeing extreme cost to improve and develop this site. So I'm hoping that provides clarity for that particular topic that was discussed at the last meeting. And then behind that, you'll find quite a few updated pages and additional information regarding our financial pro forma and the assumptions for the development deal that Kurt will be able to answer questions on if you have the opportunity to look that over and peruse it. So
Yeah, essentially the updates to the numbers were just some additional pages that were added. I know that the initial projections, the format is prepared in a way that an accountant would look at it, not a person really just looking at cash inflows and outflows. So the 5th page and the 6th page were some additional pages to really lay out from a financial statement perspective. Here are the cash inflows for the project that we're estimating, and then the cash outflows showing the debt service in a more clear fashion.
So one of the things that we asked about in the previous agreement or discussions and negotiations, we were talking about either commercial or rental property, or retail, sorry, on the property, which is I think the one facing Main Street next to the bank. It's one of the only pieces that you guys have really that is situated for that. The other several are next to the bank and owned by the bank, so really off the table. One of the reasons why I got involved in this, as a trustee, was to try to develop more commercial retail in the village, because it offsets certainly the average taxpayer's thing, and also gives the average taxpayer some options. But it's not in this particular layout, and that's one of the things that I'm struggling with. If we're going to send out and I know the site it's ugly, it's a big hill. But to Mick's point, that's part of doing the development is tackling that. So I'm stuck on not having that retail commercial space there.
Right, I think that was fairly the consensus of the board too, and we did speak about this a little bit, I think, after you gentlemen left last time. Especially with the TIF incentive, we're struggling with doing it for residential development. Is that correct, Mick? Where we kind of talked about it. Typically, and anybody can speak to this if you want, but I think TIF is typically something we use for a commercial incentive, a business incentive, that kind of thing. And I've been on the board for a while, and I don't recall doing it for residential development before, so that's kind of where we're in a quandary about this.
Yeah, I wish I could develop a retail building, but if you have no tenants and no interested parties, I can't put up a 10,000 square foot, 100% vacant building.
No, I totally.
Get that financed or not. So at this point in time, I can't propose that. If I had someone, it's in the approved PUD. We want to build it. It's certainly not something we're trying to avoid.
Sure.
It's not something that I anticipate like changing out into more residential aspects of it. But I think as more and more rooftops become available, especially close by and walking, that the interest level in that retail is going to go up. So I think we're truly caught in this chicken and the egg kind of process of what comes first, the retail, then the rooftops, or the rooftops and then the retail. And I truly feel that we need more rooftops in this area to drive that retail. You know, I talked to Jerry Stoddard, and he called me out of the blue prior to us coming back and presenting this. And he communicated to me that he wants to do an improvement there, and he wants to convert his business into more of a country market where they can serve sandwiches and things like that. But he can't do that until the rooftops are there. So that's what I'm basing my feedback to you and that answer and that response.
So here's my response to that then. Since you're anticipating, you have a plan and everything in place, the residential's coming, I would assume that you're already planning to put in some sort of commercial or retail there with, following the plan. So the plan would be, we're going to get X number of buildings up, and then we're going to start, looking at whether or not it makes sense to put this in. It's not even in the plan. That's where I'm struggling with. You're going to have a captive audience there, coffee shop, a number of different features can mix in there, and essentially you're taking no risk for the, TID or TIF money. And that's, again, this is where I'm struggling as a trustee when I have to go out and talk to, my neighbors or whatever about, developing residential property that a lot of them, quite frankly, don't want to see.
I concur with John that as much as I'd love to see the open field generate more tax dollars and get the multifamily housing, we need to see that retail part as part of that package.
Yeah, I was just hoping that, like in my last couple paragraphs of my letters, that you would look at it as that you as a community already decided that the improvement to the intersection needed to be done, and you went out and you spent that dollars, and then you drew a TID district that incorporates a certain area, and the understanding that if being a taxpayer because I own a piece of land is that you're trying to drive and generate increment within that tax district, that TID district, and that's going to help, cause that repayment of the expenses that you put into the intersection there. So as I just look at it, here's an opportunity to get something going, working together, to create some increment so you can get some tax dollars back to help offset the cost of that intersection. And I guess this is what I can put together and put forth to you for consideration. I certainly appreciate your point of views, and I wish I had retail. I'm not here saying that.
We all do, yeah.
I don't like retail. We've developed retail before, but I'll never get a building financed if I have 0 tenants associated to it. So we're kind of caught in this chicken and the egg. This was one opportunity to get things going, get some energy flowing there, continue on with the momentum that the bank did, and I guess I'm here just seeing if this is something you guys want to support, because if it is to the point where if this TIF isn't provided to this project, I am back to the drawing boards, and we're sitting with a piece of land here trying to figure out what to do.
How many rooftops, how many more rooftops do you think you need before the commercial component becomes feasible?
I don't think it's driven by number of rooftops. If I had the building 75% pre-leased, I would be moving forward without the rooftops. I just have had signs up for 2 years now and have gotten 3 phone calls. So there's no way a bank is going to give me financing to put up a 100% spec building at this point in time. It's just the unfortunate reality. But I think the retail is going to be great once it all fills in. And once we have the rooftops, it's just, this project could be sitting as is for a while, and you're going to miss the opportunity in the window of this TID being open for you to generate the increment to pay off the intersection. So I'm just trying to work together with you guys in a partnership-like format to say, here's an opportunity for us, should we consider it, and should we work together to get it done, or should we go back to the drawing board?
I think nobody objects to the residential, it's just providing the TIF without the commercial component, I think, with pretty much a consensus, actually.
Yeah, kind of as an example, 1855, that building there, that used taxpayer monies, but for apartments, there was also a component of it that just drove commercial development as well. You've seen that building?
Yeah, I've been there.
Beautiful building. That's kind of what we'd want in the center of town.
I appreciate your position. That's a tough, like you said, chicken and the egg quandary at this point. So.
I guess before, are we wrapping up?
Nope.
Before I ask one question, Mick, you previously mentioned affordable housing in the last conversation. Is that something we should be investigating for this location?
I don't think so.
Because Horizon kind of specializes in affordable housing, and certainly something I can investigate.
I think we're looking for something a little more prominent in that area, at the main intersection, pretty much. I mean, there's nothing wrong with affordable housing, it's just, I'm not sure where we have that in our plans, Aaron.
I think having more units of multifamily housing is going to make all the units here more affordable. I think part of the
Right.
reason our median rent is so high is that there's just
As I recall, we
lot
have kind of a
demand.
deficit of the lower price point and a deficit of the higher price point, but we're pretty good with the middle range.
That was more for single-family housing.
Yeah.
For the multifamily rents, we were on the higher end for the,
Okay.
we're at the high end for the comparable communities.
Okay.
So I know another concern that kind of came up is that developing right along the road here is probably the easiest portion of the land to develop. You had mentioned at the previous meeting that you're going to kind of have to level and clear out everything on the lot in order to make it all work out. Would you consider, perhaps, if we don't approve things at this stage, starting with like a phase 2 where you start further back offset with the buildings, leaving this frontage open for a potential mixed use in a new stage 2 or something along those lines? I know it's kind of like, I'm just going to throw something randomly at you right now, but that's something that at least appealed to me, because I like the dog park. I don't mind the additional residential. It's just kind of all coming back to the TIF money and whether or not it's going to be something we can provide.
I think we would be open to look at, if I'm rephrasing your question, and please correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth here, is there are additional 20-unit buildings that are planned in phase 2. If we flip-flop and did phase 2 first,
Yeah.
sounds weird, right? To the buildings that we are kind of calling phase 2 as phase 1 and leave these open for the opportunity for a different use down the road.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was suggesting.
I would look into it. We're here, we own a piece of land, we want to work with you guys, we want to get something done, but it's got to be feasible. So
Right.
if you were to tell me, go out right now and look at phase 1 being the 5 buildings up there versus the 5 buildings down here, and get the project going in that sense, and you would be willing to fund a TIF level similar to the request that I have in now, I'd go and look at it and come back to you whether or not that's feasible.
I'll still say that I'll need to see a retail part of that phase 2.
Yeah, and I just want clear direction from you guys because this is costing money.
Yeah.
I don't want us to be going in a path that's not going to be fully supported, and I just ask that of you guys because I've done this in enough communities. I don't need to go and bang my head against the wall and try to convince you guys and try to move something that isn't going to move. So I just ask for your honesty and your candor of what you will.
I guess
or won't.
I agree, flip-flopping phase 1, phase 2, I can't speak for anybody else, but I do like that idea.
I mean, if you want to come back with a plan of that nature, maybe we'll take a look at that, but I know we are, with the TIF issue, pretty much a consensus, I would say. As far as providing just residential with the TIF, that's kind of the hang-up for us.
So when you say phase 2, you mean phase 2, the 5 buildings plus the commercial?
I think
10,000
that's
square foot
where we're at.
commercial?
That's what I
We're
would
hearing?
say, yes.
You know, even if it's not huge commercial, if it's some kind of commercial, something
Yeah.
that,
Okay, and I heard just the residential with these two, so
Okay.
is the direction for you to, I guess, if it's, I want it over there and I want the retail building, and the retail building's a must, then I'm not gonna come before you until I have someone in retail lined up. And that's the message I take, and because every exercise costs your staff time and energy going through it, my time, my outside engineers and consultants, and I'm just want clear direction, and I believe I'm talking very clear with everyone, just so I don't go away with the wrong.
You can go around the table, maybe, what was your?
Again, I need to see a retail one.
Okay, appreciate that.
I'm not familiar enough with the GDP to say at this point. I wasn't around when that was put in place, so I need to take a look at it.
Okay, so you're.
For that housing
You're
impact.
talking, I guess we had quite a discussion afterwards, after folks left last time, and we were talking about the whole but-for test and all the stuff like that, and I guess you can offer TIF for residential, it's just not something we've done, and I'm not sure it's the best use of TIF, but that's kind of where I'm at for us.
Could I ask you a question? And last time you were questioning the numbers and the level, I think, of increment that was being looked at. Do you feel that this has addressed that issue?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have some questions on the numbers. I mean, I still do. I don't know if we want to talk about it, but just like the land being put in at 600,000, is that really? How did you prorate that out of the amount that you actually paid and do it on a square foot basis, or how did you arrive at that? I mean, those are the kinds of questions I have. I don't know if it's worth bringing them up now, but I mean, it's just walking through some of this.
So, and I know this information got to you pretty recent, Nick, so why don't you digest it? Do you have Kurt's contact information? If not, he can reach back out to you. Okay.
And if you want to give your questions to Lee or Matt, they can certainly forward them to you so we get your questions answered. Okay.
So I guess to reiterate, I'd be more inclined to vote for something with the further 5 buildings being developed, keeping this closer space, if you guys would be open, if the rooftops do come, if the bodies do come, and then there gets to be more development, leaving this area open for maybe a mixed use similar to the 1855 would get more support from me. I would love to see the commercial space put in, but I also do understand your situations. So that's all I have to say.
Well, the good out of this is I'm hoping I get 10 more salespeople to help spread the word. Sure. So I appreciate the feedback, Forrest. Thank you.
I actually agree with Forrest. The same kind of a ditto for his comments.
And I'm sorry I brought it all up, but no, I mean, the original scheme was, and it makes sense, in the plan, you strongly look at retail after you get some, those 5 buildings in perhaps. Because at that point, if you've got them leased out, which, hopefully you do, then you're going to have a need. You're going to have somebody interested, for sure.
I can see that happening when you're talking.
And so that's why I would like, that to be, strongly considered somehow in the plan.
So like retail in the plan with maybe a date, target date of?
Yeah, just, in the plan. I mean, it's not in the plan. It was in the plan before. It's not in the plan now. It's real simple.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's semantics and words. It's in the plan for the GDP. It's not in this current proposal of what we can move forward at this time.
Okay.
So
one comment. If we were to go the direction, Forrest, that you've been talking about, I would really like to see a GDP that addresses the concerns that you were bringing up, like the mixed use, because now that's not the case. I mean, now there really isn't a mixed use component. I mean, it's residential, multifamily residential, and it's commercial.
I guess my thought was I'm not saying scrap the whole plan. I'm just saying, maybe we could revisit how things are currently
I like the idea of having the flexibility and the second phase being along the road as if.
Alternatively, having the 5 units built setback, having phase 2 be a commercial space, and having phase 3 be something along this road here. So getting to phase 3 would be contingent on that commercial space. Would that maybe satisfy you a little bit better, Troy, on that?
I just need to see in the plans when this retail is going to happen. And if you sit there and say at the completion of phase 1 or 2 of the multi-family units, that 1 year after opening, we're going to start digging ground on retail. I could probably roll with that, depending on what that is, but not having retail in it, any time frame with retail is we're using public money to move dirt, which,
Yeah, the challenge, or my fear of when you say, in talking at all about a retail building when you don't have any tenants lined up, if you put anything in a development agreement that says you're guaranteed that increment, by constructing and putting up a building that's 100% vacant, I'm a firm believer no one wins in that situation. Us as the developers don't win, you as a community don't win. It just shows bad, it shows poorly there. People are driving by and there's just a bunch of full building completely vacant without signage. Just doesn't look good. So no one wins by that, and then that guaranteed assessment for a X $1 million building that's sitting 100% vacant, that holding cost in there is astronomical. You can't do that, so.
I'd just like to pick up on what Mick was talking about in terms of potentially changing the GDP or incorporating language into the GDP, but I think that as a board, you have to make decisions on what you want in the GDP, not, well, kind of sort of hope that you'll do this, you know, and I think that at some point those questions have to be asked in terms of if you want this level of increment, what is the board willing to settle for in terms of language and certainty. So that can be for a future discussion, but I mean, I think it's something that you gotta at least address.
I think it's fair to say you can tell we're probably not in a position to move forward with considering that at this point. I mean, there's a lot of questions for us, and some of us are probably more hung up on the commercial than the other, but I think everybody to a degree really needs a commercial, at least in the plan, if that makes sense. So I mean, that's, I guess I'd say that's where we're at. I guess it's a discuss and consider item. There's an office discussion, so I guess if that helps.
Yeah, it was on the agenda for action today if you were going to approve that or not, so.
Okay.
I guess
I'd say we
close
want to table this.
or-
I would make a motion to table it, and in the interim, I mean, we could meet and talk more, and maybe now the other consent, or at least a feeling from board members is what we want. We only have 6 when we have
Yeah,
the
the
president.
feedback is wonderful, because
Okay.
I'm all about open communication and
Okay.
what we're trying, and if you're not going to support it,
As is, I don't think we can, yeah.
well,
Right, I appreciate
to the
it.
drawing
I'll
board.
make a motion that we table this and pending further.
then I would appreciate if anyone can keep selling that retail, if that's driving that bus for us, because I've only received 2 phone calls in 2
Sure.
years, so it's
Understand.
truly is the linchpin. Okay. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Appreciate the feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to table, now we need to vote on it.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion and second then to a table, Verizon Develop Overlook Crossing TIF incentive proposal. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. And also on this item, we did have someone wishing to speak. I wanted to listen to the developer first. Hopefully that answered any some of your questions, but you're welcome to come on up and.
I still will.
Absolutely.
When I got back from our summer vacation, there was an article in the paper about the development. And the one thing that bothered me was.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you
I'm
just
sorry,
state
my
your
name is
name?
Cheryl Korth.
Okay.
I live at 451 Holly Street,
Okay.
Cottage Grove. When we got back from vacation this summer, I saw in the paper that the article about the development. And the one thing that bothered me was the phases would go as market conditions deemed reasonable. To me, that was an open door for you, but not an open door for the village. And I really think that we need to have the commercial starting first. The amount of apartments there, if they are completely, or all done, it'll be 184, am I right on that?
Yep.
We have a school crossing guard who lives on our street, and she said that that intersection is so busy already. I'm not saying that apartments shouldn't be built in Cottage Grove. That's really close to that crossing. And when people are going to be driving into Madison or some prairie, it's going to make that intersection quite dangerous, I would say, for children. Or else we're going to have them cross someplace else to get there. The other thing is, if the commercial doesn't get started at first, and I know you said that we benefit from the taxes that we will get, but as a taxpayer, we also have to provide more of the road, snow clearing. I'm not sure about road development, but snow clearing, a lot more students in our school system. Park maintenance for the dog park, probably kind of small on that issue, we would hope. But then we also have fire protection, EMT, and police protection. So all of those are expenses that go into that. And that is a very large amount of apartments in one area for as close to the intersection as it is. I don't think a commercial will cause as much traffic in the morning, but I think the housing will. So, just my opinion as a taxpayer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback.
I don't think we had anybody else registered to speak, so I think that's kind of where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, brings us down to new business. Item 8A, discuss and consider operators license applications for licensing year July 2017 to June 2018 for Andre Demers, if I pronounced that right. I was looking at my packet here. Any issues with that one, Chief?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. Is that something we should table to close session probably then, I guess?
No.
No, I'm sorry, okay. Okay, if there are no issues, then I will move approval for Andre Demers operator license. There's
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes, thank you. 8B, discuss and consider resolution 2017-17, resolution to adopt the Village of Cottage Grove Annex, i.e. Dane County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. I'll let Aaron talk about that. And JJ is here, our resident.
Unless Lee wants to.
All Lee
No, never
wants to do
mind.
is to ask the board if once we have our discussion done, assuming that you want to approve this, I'd like it approved, subject to my completing review. I've gone through it, I've looked at it, I think I understand what it does and doesn't commit us to, but that would be helpful to have that ability, so.
Okay.
Essentially what was in your packet was our annex to the Dane County plan started right away in March or April of 2015. Every community assesses the various natural hazard threats in their community, and basically that's a way to proactively plan projects to mitigate the effects of things like flood, tornado, winter storms, things like that. Most of the information in ours was actually updated by somebody working for Dane County. It's demographic information, and that's how they can assess your vulnerable populations by age and income levels and things like that. I essentially updated our project list, and Seldal was the main one with the stormwater issues there. That neighborhood could have had flooding threats, but now with the work that's taken place, that one's off the list. Since then, we've updated our website and gotten a little more active on social media and outreach. That's the kind of things I like to see for this. Other than that, there's really not much to it. I went through and just reassessed on the hazard matrix, but it looked like Mr. Hessling or someone completed it back in 2009. They're all still the same. We have this winter storms, droughts, possibly floods. Tornadoes are probably the big one, and windstorms. But we're also such a new community that I think we're lucky that we don't face the threats because of the way the neighborhoods have been engineered. We don't have the vulnerabilities of a lot of communities. Essentially, Dane County has to get this all approved at every community level, pull it all together, and submit it to FEMA, and then that way then we're all eligible for mitigation project funding.
So we're just one little piece of a big puzzle.
Yep.
And the town was having theirs discussed at the emergency government committee this week. So.
Be happy to answer any
Thoughts,
questions.
questions on it?
One question. Since we've completed the $2 million worth of work on the Sildall plat, is there any other high priority items that are in here I didn't see?
No, honestly, it's, again, that was probably done in 2015, and it was a dream at the time we were gonna get that project done, but I don't think there's any that are major natural hazard threats.
I move to adopt Village of Cottage Grove Annex to Dane County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Pursuant to Lee's review.
With Lee's review. Okay. All right, I'll second that. The same. Motion and a second then to adopt the Dane, our version of the Dane County, or Cottage Grove Annex to the Dane County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Sorry. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Item 8C, is authorization to post vacant trustee position. I've seen this done a number of different ways. I guess I'll let Lee talk about it a little bit. And, you know, Larry's not here and he's resigned, so.
Well, not unsurprisingly, the memo that's in your packet is rather similar to the one that I did earlier this year, with just an initial paragraph done, but there really isn't in the statutes a specific way that you have to do this. I guess the last time we put an ad in the paper and asked people to respond, but you can do it any way that you want.
I think we just said website and Facebook.
Yes. I know we've always shied away from the special election. That's too much time and expense, and it's, yeah, honestly, it's hard enough to get people honestly to serve anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the timing either. We've never done one, so you have a clean slate in terms of how you want to proceed.
I'm fine with putting something on the website in 2 weeks, a month. What do you think for a time frame? Thoughts?
Did we run it twice in the paper, do we know the last time? So we ran it 2 weeks, we leave the ad in the website for a couple of weeks?
And I doubt we put it in the paper because they just write an article or put it on their website because it's expensive to put ads in the paper.
Okay.
So I think we just do it online and, hopefully there's an article.
Yeah.
Is it,
There's
the writer, so.
It's not to be edited, but I'm writing this down.
too loose for me to make a motion to do exactly what we did last time.
I'm just curious about the time frame. How long do we want to wait to like a closing date for?
Once we post it on the website, I would say we'd probably give people 2 weeks.
I'm fine with the 2 week time frame. Nick, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess my question would be as to what we do next. This term serves through 2019, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So whether we should, in April, when we have the next election, whether that election, we should have an election for that position for the remainder of the term, or what, we're appointing someone for a long period of time is what I'm saying. Whether that's ever come up before,
Yep.
I throw that out there.
And I think that's important to make that decision because I know that, somebody may say, well, I don't want to run for election right away like that, or, how long is the term? I know that with Pat's position,
Yep.
I think you just filled out his term, right? It was
Correct.
like a
When
year.
I think I was the only person running at that time because we had an election for village president, and it was only for Pat's term. It was not for another
Right.
2-year term,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Right.
So kind of keep things on that same schedule.
So when is Larry up for?
He just got elected, right?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be until
He has
It's
like
almost
20 months
2 years.
left.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would be fine for the remainder of the term, or
Yeah.
doing, if you don't want to mess with the current schedule, then just for the remainder of the term.
I just go to the length of the term, I think.
Okay.
But that's me.
Thoughts? 2 weeks long enough?
Yeah,
Well, I was just looking at the calendar. I think it might make sense to maybe have the deadline be, let's say, October 27th. It would give a little bit more time because the next board meeting to do if we did 2 weeks, that puts us right at the next board meeting, so we wouldn't be able
Okay.
to, get that in the packet and things like that. So we could shoot for doing, inviting any candidates to interviews at the first meeting in November 6th, if that makes sense to everybody. That way we give also longer for people to submit, about, 3 weeks or so.
Okay. I mean, I'm fine with that. Is that?
It's reasonable.
Okay. All right, I guess I'll make a motion that we post it on the website and with the closing date of the 27th, you said, Matt? Is it
Yeah, Friday the 27th, yeah.
that close of business, 4:30 or 5 o'clock, I guess, whatever. Okay.
What,
And
could I just make a suggestion? Maybe you want to make it noon, and that way Lisa, if whatever she's got at noon is what,
it's in the packet.
Well, it's fine,
It's
the
in the
meeting's
packet.
not until the 6th, so we're fine.
just thinking of Lisa.
That's nice.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So we're okay with the end of business then?
Jack, do you want to add to that the person, this person would be filling out the term?
For the duration of the current
Yeah.
term that would have been?
Yes. I'm afraid if you get someone in who's going to be motivated to take a seat knowing that they're going to have to run for reelection in the next, they're going to have to file paperwork in the next 2 months, basically.
Right.
We've got 4 and 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yep, I'll add to that for the duration of Larry's term then. Is there a second to the motion to have the closing
Second.
date? Okay. Motion and a second to post the position with a closing date of the 27th at end of business and for the remainder of former trustee Shinneman's term. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. And we are on to reports.
Andrew.
I'm sorry.
I just have, I guess one quick question. So his term is in 2 years, or is he?
Almost 2 years. It would be starting in May,
It'll be ending in May of 19,
ending in May of 19. Yes.
Okay,
or
and
May
then-
1st, 19.
Okay, and then they just need to submit a letter,
There'll be a posting on village website, and they would have to just submit a letter of interest, I think, is what we did last
Yep,
time.
the
not
letter
an
of interest is
actual
perfect.
application.
or just a letter of interest?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Include any qualifications.
Thank you. All right, first up on reports is Public Relations Committee.
I think we'll give Andrew, who's gonna come out here and present the memo.
Oh, sure, okay.
So,
Andrew will appear.
yeah.
He was
Take note of
He heard me.
that.
Evening, everyone.
Hello.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about the potential upgrades for our meeting rooms, specifically our displays. In your packet is the information I included. So even tonight, we had 2 presentations, and as you saw, we had a couple trustees that had to move away. It wasn't very easy to see the screen very far across the room, and I have to use one of our cameras to look at it. It's generally just not a good system. So back in September, or meeting before September, I brought a plan to the Public Relations Committee for a projector to be mounted on the ceiling, have the display move behind where I'm sitting now, so that it can be seen from everyone without them having to pick it up. They're closer to the microphones when presenting, so they can be heard for recordings, and it'll be a little bit easier for people in the seating to see it as well. The Public Relations Committee actually wanted something a little more sophisticated. Projectors are a little bit more out of date, they have their downsides, and they felt that an LCD screen would work better. So with that in mind, I went out and got some proposals, got some ideas of the equipment we wanted, as well as a wireless presentation system, so going cords free and not having to plug anything in. So, the 3 displays that they looked at, the biggest difference between them is one is a digital signage display. It can handle doing news items, bulletins, and such natively. You don't need any special box, don't need any other equipment, just a network connection. The second display was a touch display. This would allow people to sort of interact directly with the presentation, advance their slides, and what have you. And then the third display was a 4K display, in case you want to go ultra high definition. It really lacked any other features, and it was the most expensive. So the committee felt that the first display, the Philips 65-inch HD Smart TV, would be the best fit. For mounting it, the best place in this room to have a display is, of course, sort of right behind me. If we were to mount it on the wall, we, of course, would have to bring these walls about 20 inches out. Otherwise, they're going to be inside the cubby, and you may not be able to see them from everywhere in the room. So the articulating arm sort of was out by default. It would be the most pricey, as we'd have to build out the wall, have an electrician come in, install outlets. The one that the committee liked the most was the Peerless flat panel cart. It's effectively a cart that the TV mounts to, and it can be wheeled anywhere in the room. With that, we can move it around for election day or special events, or if the room is split in half and we're using two different things, each side could have a display positioned wherever they feel it is best used. So that was their recommendation as well. Any questions on that so far?
Makes sense.
So then the wireless presentation system. This is a system that handles sort of push a button, whatever's on your laptop is now displaying on the display. As if magic. Witchcraft. The first one I found was the Barco ClickShare 800. It's a very basic unit. It's a USB dongle you plug in, push a button, you're displaying your display. But that's really the only feature it has, and it's simple and pretty pricey. The WePresent 2100 was the preferred unit. It's the cheapest. It also allows for sharing with a laptop over a USB dongle, so I can hand someone a USB drive and say, here, use this, connect to our Wi-Fi, you're sharing your display. It also has something called the SharePod. You can take any HDMI input, be it from a camera, a laptop, a DVD player, and wirelessly show that as well. So that kind of takes away from just being computers and laptops and presentations to being more DVDs, Blu-rays, that sort of thing. The third unit was the Kramer Via Collage. It had even more features than the two, but it was a little overkill. We wouldn't really use e-polling or chat features or anything like that for a meeting space. So the WePresent was the unit that the committee went with. Then I have a bunch of required accessories and optional accessories. The required accessories, effectively it's an HDMI extender. The only thing we need to plug into these TVs is a single network cable and then power, and that should be it. So we can put them anywhere in the room as long as there's power and are within network range. Some of the other stuff is just to get that sort of connected up, get the signal split, get a feedback in the control room so I can see the recordings as well. And then optional accessories. The optional accessories include a document camera. That's a camera that would sit on a desktop, and someone could say, bring in a presentation or a map, show it and gesture it on the table, and you could see it on the display. A VGA to HDMI adapter. Of course, technology is moving forward and moving away from VGA to HDMI jacks. The VGA is still prevalent, and some people still use them, so having an adapter just to make sure we cover all the bases. And then a wireless presenter. It's also known as a clicker, something you can use to advance your slides, progress forward, laser pointer. It's something people generally request when they come in here if we have one, and it'll just make presenting a little bit easier as well. So the committee looked at all of that and approved a recommendation not to exceed $8,000 for the equipment listed in the price breakdown section of the package. So, any questions on that?
I think it would be a good idea because when you see people up here presenting, they've got to stand next to the laptop. Some people in the audience can't see, and I'm guessing at some point the cameras get the back of the guy's head or obscuring what's
I've had one presenter that complained that I was repeatedly getting his bald spot, and he was unhappy about it.
I did not say a word.
So yeah, the
Poor
cameras
guy
aren't
with
necessarily the
bald
best
spot.
position.
Feel sorry.
That's right.
So this upgrade would be obviously out of the cable funds, and we thought we were certainly in need of something like this based on what we all experience in the room. And allowing the smart TVs on cards gives us more flexibility to utilize them in different fashion, just besides presentations and such.
Will this integrate with the speakers or the microphones?
It will connect back into my system. I'm not sure what you mean, integrate with
Well, I
system?
mean, will we have to, let's say that you get this, will we have to do anything with?
We'll still have these mics.
With the mics?
Yeah, these microphones will be unchanged, it's
Yeah.
just for presentations, and then an output from that comes back into my system so I can see it as well. So nothing for the microphones or audio will be changing.
Would the old equipment have any value to offset some of the cost?
The old equipment effectively consists of just the one projector. I doubt we could sell it because projectors aren't terribly expensive these days. So we could potentially pursue it if you'd like, but I'm not sure if that will work.
It might be worthwhile holding on to it as a backup, should, new technology.
Yep. That is sort of the nice part about having two displays, is you can always just plug something directly into it. If someone doesn't want to use the system or they have an unusual device and won't communicate, grab a cord, plug it right in, it's a TV. You could watch the Packer game or something on it if the need arose. So.
Anybody want to make a motion for this? I think it's personally a good idea.
I'll make a motion for the upgrades not to exceed $8,000.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the recommendation from Public Relations Committee for the room improvement plan upgrades, not to
Cable funds.
exceed
I
$8,000.
should add through the cable funds.
Through the cable fund?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the cable fund funds. Not to exceed $8,000. Is there a second? Or
Yes,
you did
I'll second.
it.
I'll second,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, motion and a second then. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Good job.
Pier Court Steering Committee, I was not at that meeting. I don't know if anybody else was here that can give us a report. I know they meet every other month, and I can tell you they've been doing a good job. They've been trying to track, I guess you call it recidivism, people that are in the Pier Court system, what happens when they reach the adult system, and how many reach the adult system, and if they have Pier Court intervention prior to that. I'd like to find out more about that. Deer Grove EMS Commission. John and
Go ahead, John.
So there's actively, the big news from the meeting is obviously we're pursuing a new director and moving forward with that.
I guess I can
You-
speak to that. Last
you're-
Wednesday night and last Friday night, we had a pool of candidates came in for initial interviews. We started with, 12 people that were qualified. One person canceled at the last minute. We walked out of there with a handful of folks that we're going to call back for a second interview process, and we're determining what exactly that's going to be.
Okay.
So,
So you got a few people.
but we do have some good, we feel super good candidates too.
We're still looking at start date of.
Well, we're again, we know that current chief is willing to stay until the end of the year, and we're hoping to have someone on board, end of November, early December, something like that. But it really depends on, next interview process, background check, and all that stuff, so.
Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
Well, yeah, the big thing other than that was certainly the budget for 2018, which was submitted through. Committee had a robust discussion about it, and the biggest driver there is labor and benefits. Labor costs continue to go up, and the benefit costs continue to go up. So, certainly trying to keep that as palatable as possible for taxpayers without obviously impacting the service in any way, shape, or form. So that was the other big part of it. The only smaller item really was there's just a continuation of the RFP process for potential consolidation. And again, as I've mentioned before, and I think others have mentioned, this is a long-term consideration for the district, and not something that's going to happen next year or something like that. But we're looking at that. So we need to figure out who in the other municipalities are really interested in actually doing this before. At some point, it'll come before all the boards to talk about.
Okay.
So those are the big three items.
John, was the budget ultimately, was there a recommendation or approval or?
Yes, there was an approval of the budget. can't recall because we looked at so many different versions, but it's going up.
Okay. I mean, usually we have some of their staff, they come, like, what's the process for getting the board still approve them? Was there a timeline on that?
No, it wasn't. And I think part of that's because obviously the directors, got one foot out, so.
Yeah.
If you certainly want that, then.
Well, I mean, we need the board to approve them.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
They were supposed to submit that back through,
Okay.
the spreadsheets and everything. I know that.
All right. Thank you. Joint Fire Department Committee.
I can talk about that. We talked about Deer Grove EMS storage of their second ambulance.
Third ambulance.
Third ambulance, sorry, reading off the list here. And we basically said that we're going to, John, did you have a chance to look into storing it in the village garage?
Yeah, JJ got back to me. We're currently at a spot that could be, but it's occupied.
Okay.
So that's the dilemma we have right now.
Just to get it in out of the weather.
Yeah, we have to get it out of the weather.
And the general consensus is there's not enough room for it in the fire department area. Just can't really make it work with everything else in there. So that was kind of tabled until we had a chance to review all of our options. We'll probably be discussing that at the next meeting. We discussed and considered the 2018 budget for the fire department and building maintenance. Both were recommended for approval. We had a last minute addition regarding the refitting and funding for new scuba equipment. That's self-contained breathing apparatus for entering buildings during fires, not for going in the lakes and swimming. And so right now, the air pack containers that they use are a 15-year cycle. They got them in February 2003, so there's a little bit of a sunset period, but if they have to use these air pack cylinders past the expiration date, they're not going to be able to refill them. So there's a sunset period, equipment is aging out, and there's a bunch of different accessories and improvements.
I'm guessing there's insurance ramifications too, right?
We didn't discuss the insurance ramifications. We just kind of took a look at how we could do the funding for it because it is a pretty massive expenditure. The cost, if we were to order in 2017 and pay in 2018, would be $195,000. And that would come, we voted to recommend to the town and village that comes out of the Pleasant Springs fund, which should have about $215,000 in it. So it would pay for all the upgrades. The upgrades will also be beneficial with the Summit building going in and some of the larger buildings coming to town. The more time that the first responders have to enter a burning building means more people saved, more stuff they could do to help prevent the spread. With that being said, so we did motion to recommend that the board approve this. We do also have to keep in mind that there's going to be a future need for a new truck. And John, do you?
2022.
2022. So that's going to be another large expense, and it might be something we consider setting aside some money in this and future budgets to help pay for that. That might be, was it around 400,000? Were they thinking?
Somewhere there.
Yes.
Depending on.
There's too many factors to have a set price, but coming up in a few years, that could hit us if we don't plan for it. Okay. Anything you want to add, John?
The other thing that we did talk about quite a bit was the current agreement with the volunteer fire organization. It is 20 years old, and we're looking, the committee's looking towards Lee, Sue and him, to update it, and there's statutes in there that no longer exist. There's a number of things that we need to get it sorted out. So we had a conversation with both Lee and Susan as committee and shared what we thought needed to be done, and they're taking it offline and working that for us.
We talked afterwards, and she's going to work on the fire department component of this, and I'm going to work on the emergency government component of this.
Good.
I think that was,
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Law enforcement committee meeting, that was on the 26th. I was not able to attend that meeting.
Yeah,
but I think
I'll take that,
Okay.
yeah. Chief Labor is still waiting for the union to start negotiating. The union seems to have other priorities. They're working with bigger departments and communities. So we really don't know from a budget standpoint where we stand, but we're hoping for 2%, but kind of expecting 3% of increase with that new three-year cycle on the contract. But we did make a motion to approve Chief Labor's 2018 budget requests of adding a detective and a sergeant position, not with the idea of expanding the department, but promoting from within and enhancing the department to give them better coverage on the third shift, for more the sergeant for more supervisory ability, so that there are supervisors on all three shifts. So, because we have a lieutenant, now we need a sergeant. And then a detective to position a kind of a more commensurate with what detectives get to attract a better, more energetic caliber of person to, am I describing that correctly? For the detective role. Chief, do you want to add anything to that?
I would describe it as an open promotional opportunity for anybody in the department that's interested. In the past, we may not have had everybody apply for that type of position because there was no extra incentive monetarily. This would add some incentive for more people to apply and potentially get more out of the position. And the current detective is more than welcome to apply also.
Yeah. Fred, did you have anything else to add?
No.
You were there?
Perfect. I guess the only thing I'd mention is the next meeting is on October 24th at 5:30.
Thank you.
NADVIG Winnetka?
So we're going to need somebody to replace Larry, probably the board member whenever they come on. But I did attend, and something like that. I got a nice stack of paperwork for you guys. But it's more just to leave with the village. I don't think anybody really wants to go over this. So to kind of sum things up, there was, well 3 was installed. We had previously voted to have that put in. 2 holes had to be dug. The first one had waste in it, so there was a slight overage in cost due to that additional hole. The budgeted amount for the installation of that well was $3,133, and that came in at $3,288. So very small overage just because they had to do another spot. So far, it looks like we are on budget for the year, but due to some hot spots in the gas monitoring, there might be a little extra sampling needed, and that may cause some issues. We did vote unanimously to reapprove the contract, and Strand is going to get a breakdown of the approximate town-village cost split for the monitoring.
Of course, the contract's actually with the town, right?
Yes, I believe so. So that was basically it. It was a lot of data. So.
All right, thank you. Parks, Rec, and Forestry Committee.
There's actually an item to discuss and consider the agreement.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Sorry about that. Discuss and consider approval of agreement with Strand Associates Incorporated for 2018 services for NADVIG Road landfill. And you said Strand has been the one doing this.
Right, and that agreement, we're still on the same rate. I don't think there was any increase in the cost for that.
All right, so that's our cost, not the split cost, the 2011. Okay.
I don't know.
Do we have to approve anything?
It's, if the agreement's with the town.
Right, we have a
we
cost
have-
sharing agreement.
We have to pay half.
Well, that's in our, it's a line item in the budget.
Yeah, so I'm not sure we have to approve it, but just but we need to know where it's coming from and how we split
Don't we
it.
share the cost though?
Yeah, we are, but we don't hold the contract
Right.
to at least.
Do we have to tell them that we're okay with this?
I mean, that's what the motion maybe should be. Is that-
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another thing.
Is well, I think that the cost-sharing agreement arises out of the original lawsuit between the village and the town. And it might be useful for you to have a copy of that. I was just thinking about that. But I believe it, because I don't think that there's any other agreement with the town. And I took a look at this before tonight's meeting, and I saw that it was with the town. So, I mean, you know, I know that we pay our share, but I don't think that we are actually the ones that contract with Strand.
I don't know
What's
the
the cost, yeah?
procedural history enough.
Right. I think we're kind of a third party to this contract, sort of. So I think.
So I don't know, I mean, I don't think we really have to prove anything because we don't have to sign anything.
Right. I guess if there's no objections, I think we just let them know that we're okay with continuing the agreement as is.
Wouldn't we want to let the town know that we're up to a certain dollar amount, not to exceed X number of dollars for bonding?
Yeah, I mean, they're actually the ones who contract with Strand.
But they're billing us for part of it.
Yeah, and
I'm
they
saying
bill
is
us back,
don't
so-
we want to let them know we're willing to pay up to 50% of
Is that how
the
it
contract
works?
costs? Or is that getting too technical?
The town sued the village?
Oh, yes,
Oh,
it's a long history that you could probably, that's lovely for.
All right, okay. We'll let that go.
All right, so,
But
yeah.
Are we consenting to this or ratifying it or doing something though?
I think that you're essentially consenting to it, not necessarily ratifying anything, because there really isn't anything in front of us to ratify.
We have an agreement, draft agreement in front of us though.
Is that to the town?
Yeah, I mean, that's, the Strand agreement that we have in front of us is for the 2018 services. It looks like they just marked it up from last year.
Right.
Updated it. So I guess the question I have is whether we're being asked then to consent or ratify, I don't know what we're doing. Or
Yeah,
ratify.
I agree, because I saw that today too, and I went, wait a minute.
The agreement looks like it's
Agreement.
from Strand and it's to the town, and we just have a copy of what the town is agreeing to or something.
I guess it's consenting that we would give our consent to the town signing it, because we already have an agreement in place, right?
For the splitting of, for the allocation of
So
the
I
cost.
think we probably
Yeah.
would need to do a motion.
To express our consent.
Yeah.
or-
All right.
I guess I'll make a motion to consent to the agreement between the town and Strand as presented.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to consent to the agreement between the town of Cottage Grove and Strand as presented. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Now we're on to Parks and Rec.
Yes, and the big discussion here, do you want to go ahead and do that, or either way? It's fun stuff.
We always get the stuff. So yes, we were approached by Megan Wambach and looking to do goat yoga within the village. So we're asking for an amendment of the ordinance on October 22nd for about 4 hours. Our ordinance states we cannot have animals in the parks. She's going to do goat yoga at Willow Run Park. It is going to be completely enclosed within fencing that they are providing. She has provided the village with a certificate of insurance, and the event will run from about 12 to 1:30, so we're giving her just a little bit of room to get the animals in and out. Okay.
And she's going to clean up?
She's going to clean up, yeah, there's going to be, yeah. should
Too
be
bad we don't have that
outside.
smart TV. We could see an example of this.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah.
Could I ask, could we, instead of waiving or amending, just suspend the ordinance? I mean, I'm not sure we want to amend anything. All we're really doing is just not enforcing the ordinance for a period of about 4 hours.
Yes.
Okay.
It's pretty similar to like a sound amplification permit or party permit.
And we did this as well for the Zoo Zort at North Lawn in July, just suspending the ordinance for a period of time.
I just had a question now. She has a fence, because I know goats will eat basically anything that
They do.
it's within sight.
Yeah, she's fencing a small area around at Willow Run Park, kind of in the bowl, so it'll be a short period of time that they're there, and they're supposedly little ones, so.
And she's doing it as a fundraiser.
Yep,
A farmer brings them in, a farmer is in control of the goats. So she's done this before in Mount Horeb. Actually, my wife has done it with her in Mount Horeb, so.
And as Jim
she's-
mentioned, it is a fundraiser for the food pantry.
Would be licensed and be able to identify security, so we know who's in control of the goats.
Yes. So Lee,
Farmer.
if we temporarily suspend this, could in theory anybody come in with dogs and
Well,
lions?
here's what I would
Lions
want
and
you
tigers and
to,
bears.
I would ask that the motion be a temporary suspension for a very specific purpose and to incorporate all of the language that's there into the motion so that we don't run into a situation where someone decides that for 4 hours they can run amok in the parks.
I would agree. I'll make a motion then that we suspend the ordinance, but including the caveat that the language in the staff recommendation is to be adhered to and it only applies to the yoga class.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the recommendation of Parks and Forestry Committee permitting the goat yoga class on October 22nd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Willow Run Park with the language described. We have a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Thank you.
Little baby goats climb up on you while
That's why
you're
you're-
Yeah, it's great.
Reports
It's been on
from
TV.
Village officers, Troy?
No report.
Okay, Mick?
I do have a question about the Parks and Recs Committee. On the discussion regarding the budget,
Yeah.
are we looking at budgeting any tenant improvements to expand the area that we're currently using for recreational purposes over the mornings and the afternoon and evening? Because it's getting pretty crowded.
Yeah, that's something that.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Sorry, I should have
Talked about
mentioned that.
Yeah, and we're looking at what the possibility would be to expand to the area that we're currently renting. So whatever improvements would need to be made there just to make it feasible to program that space.
Mainly, the big cost would be the flooring
Yeah.
and better lighting. So, right?
Yep.
And then it becomes a little paint, then it becomes another usable space, like is being used right now.
Because I think now you have flooring that you temporarily put back, right? That would, you could, there's a sprung floor in there now that I assume could be put in more of a permanent kind of floor somewhere else.
The flooring that's there,
But there's a sprung floor that takes up
yes.
a considerable amount of room in there now.
Yes.
Which could be used for other purposes. So I mean, there already is a partial floor that could be used in another location.
The sprung floor is for a cheer and dance program that runs every Mondays and Wednesdays, so right now we're sharing that space. So, yeah, one of them would move to a bigger space, if that's what you're asking.
But I guess where I'm headed with this is we already have a portion of a floor.
Correct.
To put into another space.
Yeah, we have enough flooring right now to cover that entire room that's there. We don't use it all currently, but yeah, we could move some of it.
Thank you.
Do we still use Flynn Hall?
No.
No, in fact, we discussed that at the meeting too.
Yeah.
Not at all, zero, so good point. Going forward, I don't know if we want to be a 1/3 participant in that anymore. I don't know.
That's one of my little mini campaigns, is to just say, are you sure you want to be involved in this agreement where the town
Yeah.
gets all the money and we get this responsibility? So,
As long as the township takes 2/3, the Lions don't have to take any more.
There you go.
Yeah, no, well, I agree. It's not a lot of money, but it's.
Yeah.
I think what it costs us about $900 a year for the village to maintain, to pay our 1/3 share of Flint Hall. But there's no, if the parks, you're not going to use, it's just too hard to get over there and to do stuff, right?
We currently only use it for one program, and that program is not, we're shifting that program to in-house.
Right.
So we'll run it in our meeting room there. That's the only reason why we're there at all.
Does anybody else know of any other reasons why we should be paying for Flint Hall?
It's a future agenda item if you want to
Okay.
bring it up.
Okay, sorry.
Sounds good. All right, Forrest, anything?
No report?
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, John?
I don't report.
Okay, just a couple things on my part. Friday last week, I met with Dan Olson and the business manager, Jared Gosling from the Monona Grove School District. There were some things out on Facebook about this potential land purchase and things like that. They just wanted to make it understood that this is not closed, it's not happened yet, it's still in negotiation. Obviously, it has the look of a future referendum coming, but it's not anywhere in the immediate horizon. They asked me to be on their facilities long-range planning committee, which if I make those meetings, I probably will, otherwise if somebody else is interested. They just wanted some representation from the village board as well. As far as they already have the Monona mayor and I think a couple other people on the committee, but this is just looking at long-term what the needs are, reconfiguring some grades to take care of where there's kind of a bubble of grades and population and then less in other grades. So there's a lot to look at. But did that. And then I also got a call from, I think it was Department of Transportation, telling me the roundabout going south on N will be done sometime in December.
Okay.
Like, that's almost a year's worth of construction. I was like, you mean it won't be done next week?
The three roundabouts.
Yeah, it's like a kind of a triple roundabout,
Yeah,
so it's a little bit like you see the roundabout up here, but, and they asked about coming to do a presentation to the village board on how to use roundabout, new roundabout laws, because apparently roundabout laws have changed. And I said, well, we've talked to Matt, and first and third Monday at 6:30 is the time that we have available, so if they want to come, they know they got to contact you. And I'm just a little annoyed that it's taking that long to get that done, but anyway, that's my 2 cents. Oh yeah, they love it, yeah. All right, Attorney Lee Boucher.
Well, continuing our agricultural bent tonight, there is somewhat of a dispute involving a pot-bellied pig in the village. But I'll limit my comments because the pig is lawyered up and we're seeing if we can get everything worked out. So there was an article in the paper and...
Okay. Matt?
I don't know if you want to touch on the zoning aspect or?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's different arguments at different levels, but I think the one that certainly carries the day is the fact that there's simply not zoned for that kind of occupant.
For instance, the Shady Grove property, it's annexed in, it's in a rural holding district. Technically, there could be pigs there. It's the zoning that really dictates this. Yeah. So it's not that, you can't have pigs at all in the village. It really comes down to the zoning aspect. But anyway.
So like I say, the pig lawyered up and we're limiting our comments.
Okay.
Well, I took a look at the code, I don't know. And I think it's something we should really look at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, personally, I'd like to hear from the public what their thoughts are. My hunch on this is it's not so much the pig, but probably the facility the pig sleeps in or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of animals that are in the city that are not dogs and cats. And I don't know, I guess, I had a pig, but she weighed about 600 pounds when I was a kid. A little different when you're living on a farm.
Yeah.
With about 200 more pigs. But I don't know. It's a tough issue.
Question, and actually, once you start reading about it, there's been a lot of litigation about it. There's been a lot of discussion, and Mick, I absolutely agree that given the current language that kind of talks about domesticated animals and this type of thing, we would be well served by revisiting this. But we have this situation. We're going to try to deal with it, and then see if we.
Here's the point I want to make. Our legislature meets twice a month. So, I mean, if we want to make a change, we can. So I'm just putting that out there. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but we have the ability to try to serve our residents, and I think it's an issue we may want to look at.
It could be a good question to ask through that Polco surveying, which we're about to launch here within a couple of weeks. So,
And it also brings up a point, which is that, you know, we have gradually have moved away from the ordinance committee, which could be reinstated, and when we get involved in these types of things, it does create some more legal time. And so, you know, if we say, like, for example, the town changed attorneys and they told their attorney they want to review all of their ordinances and set aside X number of dollars for that. Well, you know, there are ordinances in the village, this is certainly one of them, that I think do merit a review, but that takes legal time, and you just have to be aware of that and budget accordingly.
and we certainly don't have anyone driving around looking for code issues. It's really just a, you know, on a complaint. It's not looked into until there's a complaint, and this one drew, I think, four or five complaints through our system. So.
All right. Anything else, Matt?
Good point.
Yeah, a couple things. Paul Jaden from MadRep, he mentioned that Amazon headquarters too, and he mentioned it being a long shot because the demographics and area they were looking at, we didn't quite fit, but you know, we do have the significant land north of 94. Aaron did a good job pulling together some information quickly. We got it out to them, so at least we're part of it, and they're going to submit as a region. We'll just submitting that, so we'll be part of it to get an idea of the scope of the project. So right now, the village as a whole, all of our assessed value is about $700 million. This headquarters alone would be $5 billion. So it would, I mean, obviously just be enormous, but
No more taxes for property homeowners.
They pay us to live here.
And then jumping from that to the budget, after getting all the requests from department heads and the committees, and again, they were reviewing those without looking at them the way that the board does or I do, was $500,000 more than what the financial management plan was. So I've been cutting the last few days. I've cut over 400,000 of it. I'm trying to find another 70,000 to 80,000 to cut, but it'll be when you see it, when the finance committee sees it, you know, we'll have you'll see all the requests from all the committees, and we'll have, you know, you'll get to see individual memos of those items that were cut, but ultimately you'll see the levy that was allotted for this coming year in the financial management plan. So that's coming up on October 10th for the finance committee.
At what time?
5:30.
Just a point on that, the Project Varsity, the project that I don't think we submitted on, was I think 700,000 square feet, around 500 jobs. So I mean, you're looking at some very good sized projects that folks are looking at this area.
That's great.
Okay.
Is that related to the Foxconn?
Yeah.
It's a medical component, I think, of Foxconn.
And that ties back to, so that the CDA is we're trying to really plan that land, get it, get it in the urban service area, in a TID, so we're actually ready and talking about going through that gold shovel program that Paul Jaden was talking about. Because when a request like that comes forward and they say that they want it in a TID, they want to know what the incentives could be, and it's difficult to respond to that when that's not the case yet. So
we have that information ready to go then.
Yeah.
On the shelf. Okay. All right. Anything else? Aaron?
Yeah, a couple items. Troy and Forrest both forwarded some emails from residents about looking for clarifications on Shady Grove I got that email as well, so I'll be responding to that person directly. But just generally, as far as the timeline goes, we'll be looking at the rezone and final plat at the Plan Commission on October 18th. If the Plan Commission chooses to approve those items, then it'll come here on November 6th. Okay, so if you get any questions about the timeline, that's what we're looking at for that.
That plan commission, is that open to the public as well? And
There will be a public hearing for the rezone, so the neighbors are
Okay.
invited to.
And then just a thing, I guess if you get individual emails, I think, Lee, I'll defer to you, but I think it's okay to just respond, let them know you received the email, but you're going to discuss it at a meeting or something. You just don't respond individually and tell them your feelings on the subject and that kind of thing.
Well, you can respond and let them, and just, I think the best practice would be to say that, thank you for sending this, and I'll forward it to the administrator or forward it. You don't want to get into a discussion between each of you.
Right.
And you may, I just came across some good language that I plan to start including in my correspondence, which just says, please do not respond, or, start a conversation. Can't remember exactly how it goes, but you have to be careful of that.
How about phone calls? Same thing, just.
I think to thank them and to say, well, the next hearing on this is such and such, and so I invite you to come to that so that the entire board hears it.
Okay.
I think, and you want to be responsive, but yet you want to be considerate of your fellow board.
Okay, anything else?
I know when I respond to things like that, I try to keep in mind you're not necessarily talking to just that person. These responses have a tendency to get passed around or put on Facebook.
Sure,
so
right.
I really try to think about it before I.
And we really haven't had any feedback at all from people that live in the village, right? I mean, that I just haven't seen anything. I'm just curious, okay. I just haven't heard anything at all, positive or negative.
Yeah.
I heard from one realtor who wanted more residential development.
And I think some of the disconnect is that this isn't the village that is, it's an applicant that's going through the village process. It's not board or staff that's driving the development. It's a property owner that's working with the developer to pursue that through our process.
Right. Okay.
The other item, Sean and JJ and I met with some Dane County staff and the consultant working on the bike trail connection last week. They're working on some options, how to get it through the village, and we'll have a public information meeting here. And I think they settled on November 15th, sometime in the evening. It's not quite settled yet, but it'll be an open house style format, and certainly everyone here is welcome to come, and members of the public as well.
for the bike trail extension with the budget removing the ability for towns and villages to use eminent domain to expand paths and whatnot, does that kill our extension? Is that something that's
No.
going?
They have most of the land they need getting here. And it looks like we'll have room. We haven't picked a final option, but there should be room within right-of-ways to make it work. We shouldn't have to be adding.
Okay.
any land.
So regardless of if there are people blocking the property owners who don't approve of it,
Shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. All right, Chief Labor?
Nothing.
Okay, JJ, no report? John? No, sir. Okay. All right, communications and miscellaneous business. First item, discuss and consider approval of vouchers. Any comments, questions, concerns? Village portion is $125,743.93. Now I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second to approve vouchers as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. 11B, correspondence, anything?
No.
Okay. Future agenda items, Jim, you had one just a couple minutes ago here.
Yeah, well, I guess, no, I don't feel strongly enough to add it to the agenda.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So the one I know of is the approving of funds for the canisters, scuba. for the fire department
Okay.
folks, and that money's already there. It's just we have to approve that we can use it for that purpose. The overall initial goal we were trying to do is get through a grant writing process, or get a grant for this. And we've been told that that's not going to happen. We're just waiting for the rejection letter, which should come anytime. So we have to replace them. We don't have a choice. You know, these men and women need the protection, and you get into a whole world of ugliness if you try to even go down that road of trying to use equipment. It's just silly. So the funds are there, but then we just need to consider that at some point in the future we're going to have to pull in for a fire truck replacement, which we already knew anyway.
Anything else for future agenda items? Okay. All right, regarding the closed session, we had 2 items on there. One was the Horizon people. I guess given the fact that there's not much to discuss, we should be.
Well,
decide if we want to do this.
I still need 2 evaluations, and then, so we can do that the next time, and you received a memo from me on the other business.
Okay.
So it's up to
All
the
right,
board whether you want
if it's okay with everybody else, I'll make a motion to postpone or table the closed session until our next village board meeting regarding the administrator's evaluation, and I guess we don't need the other item on there. Is that okay?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second to.
I don't know if you really table a closed session, but I would just say we're not going to go into closed session.
Okay. We'll cancel the closed session.
Second.
All right. Motion and second then to cancel the closed session as printed in the agenda. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
I just had a quick question about the meeting on the week of the 20th. That's the week of Thanksgiving? Is that November 20th? I will not be able to attend. I'm wondering if we could push it to the next week, or I just won't be there.
We could put that on the agenda for November 6th.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Can we do
Okay,
that?
that's what I was trying
Do I
to
need
figure
to
out.
send somebody something?
If you want to just simply say an email,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right.
Put it on for considering the date of that meeting.
Okay. All right.
There's a chance that might be the budget public hearing
Okay.
day. I'd have to look at I don't have the timeline in front of me, so.
Okay.
It might also be the first Monday in December. The only problem with that is like the absolute kind of like last day to have.
Yeah, you were right. It
budget
is the
approval.
public meeting. All
Okay.
right. So that's already posted?
Yep.
No, it's not posted as much as if it gets delayed, it's okay, but you have no flexibility beyond that delay. So it's just kind of,
All right.
you know, if there's are issues, it's.
If everybody else is there, it won't be a problem though, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. We just need a quorum.
All right.
All right, then I'm not going to add it.
Okay. Was there a second to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, motion and second to adjourn, non-debatable. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.